Hi gang, Scott here. I have a tip for you today about accenting off-camera lighting. Now, I'm a landscape guy, so off-camera lighting for me is the sun, maybe sometimes the moon, maybe a street lamp or something if I'm doing something in a cityscape. But I think the technique will apply to anything where you have an off-camera light source and you want to take whatever the tone of that light is and add a little bit more into your photo. Key elements for this is having some sort of masking tool, so a graduated filter, a radial filter, something like that, and really having access to range masks or luminosity masks. So I'll show you the technique in Lightroom. I know you can do this in On1 Photo Raw and Photoshop, of course, but those two things you need, a gradient or a radial and range masks. So this photo here, clearly I have the sun that is setting off to camera right. So off camera, the sun's starting to go down there. And it's throwing up some nice orange tones here. But the foreground is still a little bit cool. There's hints of it. Like if I zoom in here, we can see that there's hints of that golden light at the very tips of the surf. But it's kind of getting lost elsewhere. And I want to add that back in just to give a little more ambiance, a little more of that warm tone to it. So the technique I'll use here in Lightroom will be a graduated filter with a range mask. Now, we've got a couple different approaches, and I'll start by just using a temperature approach, okay? But first, let me drag a gradient on here. And I want this primarily for the foreground. So I've put that temperature value kind of high so you can see what's going on, right? You can see if I take that temperature down and then I undo that, there's a lot of brightness being added, a lot of warmth being added. So I can nudge that back some. But it's the range mask that I really want you to take a look at. Let's get some more screen real estate here. Let's get that range mask open. I'll use a Luminance range mask because it's the whiter parts of the surf, that bright surf that I want to accent. So I'll show the Luminance range mask and start tightening it up, hiding the effect from the shadows. If I lower the smoothness, that'll be even a crisper edge as I push that shadows range outside. Anything below this lower boundary here will not have getting this warmth. And so now it becomes a much more subtle effect, right? As I push that warmth up, you'll see if I push it too far, it's going to look unnatural because I'm only targeting the brighter parts. But a little bit of an accent there, and that becomes a very nice change to the photo. Let me find that pin. I'll delete it. Before, after. Let me do that again without having the mask overlay show up. Delete that pin. Before, and then after. Now, if the temperature slider, that was one way to do it, but we really just have warm or cool. What if you want to throw in, a different kind of color? If you're doing something in a studio where you've got, a purple gel or something like that, or it's one of those evenings like, if I had a sunset where it was more fiery colors, not just a typical warmth. Well, let's take that temperature, set it to nominal. We have a color option. In Lightroom, we have this color option. You can do a tint. If you're doing like On1 Photo Raw, you have the photo filter, anything you can throw a color onto a scene. And I can pick any color here. I wish in Lightroom I could pick something off of the screen, but I can't. But somewhere in this orange area, and actually I'm going to choose something very high, very, very saturated, so you'll see the effect, right? Matter of fact, let me choose red. This is not the right tone for this photo, but you'll see what I'm talking about here. So that same range mask, so hovering over for a moment, there's that range mask. Once again, we haven't changed the mask. What we've done is we've tinted it with a certain color. And so this is giving us a taste of what color grading can do, but with the power of the range mask. And so something where I'm adding a little accent of that orange in there. And let's do a before and after on that. Before and after. And if it gets a little bit too strong, like up in the sky, it might be a little bit too strong. Well, we still have access to our brush, which is part of that gradient filter flow. That feels pretty good. Good strong feather. Make that a little bit bigger. And I can remove some of that impact from the sky, so I'm not doubling down on that orange there. And let's go one more time, before and after. Before and after. So that's the tip. That's really two different ways you can add a little accent of color from an off-camera light source. Straight temperature slider or a color overlay. And you want to use these in conjunction with those range masks so you can really get a nice nuanced feel to that, that off-camera lighting and just have it fill in areas of the photo that it may not have filled in when you were capturing it. Hope you found the tip useful. Got questions? Go ahead and drop them below. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.